Last month, the CIA deleted a website that millions of people depended on without telling anyone. There was no announcement, no warning, just gone without explanation. It wasn't classified spy documents or secret operations. It was boring economic data about every country on Earth. Population numbers, trade statistics, GDP figures, the kind of stuff students use for research papers and journalists check when politicians make big claims about the economy. And almost nobody noticed when it disappeared. Ever wonder what happens when the most reliable source of global economic data just vanishes and the world barely reacts? Today, I'll explain why the CIA shut down the World Factbook and what it actually means for you, like you're 5 years old. By the end, you'll understand whether this is a conspiracy, a cover-up, or just another example of something important dying because nobody wanted to pay for it anymore. Here's what happened with the CIA World Factbook over the years. The CIA World Factbook has been free online since the 1990s. If you've never heard of it, you're not alone. But here's why it mattered. It tracked literally everything about every country. Population, GDP, literacy rates, natural resources, military spending, government types, telephone systems, airports. All in one place, all using the same methods, all completely free. Students used it for homework, and journalists used it for fact-checking. Even other government agencies relied on it because the data was consistent and trustworthy. No subscription fees, no paywalls, no catch whatsoever. No sketchy ads trying to sell you random products either. Just clean numbers you could actually trust completely. Then one day, it was just gone, without any warning, replaced with a bland message about reallocating resources and a link to other databases. Reddit noticed immediately and started asking questions. Some economists started asking questions on social media, but mainstream news had nothing to say about it at all. Complete silence from every major news outlet in America. Which is strange, right, considering its importance? The CIA doesn't usually shut down public resources without some explanation. So naturally, people asked the obvious question. What are they hiding? Did they accidentally publish something classified? Did they discover some economic pattern they don't want us to see? Is this the start of an information lockdown where government data slowly disappears? Here's the thing though, the conspiracy angle is way more interesting than reality. But reality is actually more important, and here's why. Think about it like this. Imagine your school had one library where every textbook used the same system, same organization, same update schedule, same fact-checking process. Need to know Brazil's population? Go to that library. Every number was measured the same way. Easy, reliable, done. Now imagine that library closes. When you ask why, someone says, "Don't worry, the information still exists." You can find textbooks at 5 different bookstores across town, some at the mall. Maybe check a few garage sales. The community center might have some random ones in a box. Technically true, the information does exist somewhere. But now you have to visit multiple places, figure out which books are current, hope they all measure things the same way, and pray the data actually matches up when you compare 2 sources. That's exactly what just happened with the World Factbook. The CIA says other databases exist, and they're right. The World Bank has economic data. The International Monetary Fund publishes statistics. The United Nations tracks development indicators. National governments release their own numbers. So yes, technically all that information is still floating around the internet. But here's what they're not telling you. The World Factbook was unique because it was centralized, standardized, and free from political pressure. When you compared GDP numbers between 2 countries, you knew they came from the same source using identical methods. You weren't comparing apples to oranges. You weren't wondering if one country inflated their numbers, or if another used a different definition of literacy that made comparisons meaningless. Everything matched. Everything made sense. Everything was in one place. And here's the frustrating part. Those other databases the CIA keeps mentioning? Not designed for regular people. The World Bank's website looks like it was built by someone allergic to user-friendly design. The IMF requires you to know exactly what you're searching for before you start, or you'll end up lost in PDFs that open inside other PDFs. The UN has 17 different agencies publishing overlapping data with 0 coordination. It's like assembling furniture when the instructions are scattered across 4 boxes, written in 3 languages, and 2 pages are just missing. Sure, it's possible, but why make it this hard? Now let's talk about why this matters to you specifically. You might think, I'm not a researcher checking trade data on Saturday nights. Fair point. But here's the reality. A huge chunk of news you read, articles you share, debates you see online, all rely on someone fact-checking claims. When fact-checking gets harder, misinformation gets easier. If a politician claims our economy outperforms 70% of countries worldwide, how do you verify that? You used to pull up the World Factbook, compare numbers, and know within minutes if they were honest or exaggerating. Now, you'd cross-reference 5 websites with different update schedules, hope definitions match, and probably give up because you have better things to do. But here's where it gets worse. When you can't easily verify economic claims, 2 things happen. First, politicians and companies can stretch the truth more confidently because they know fact-checking takes real effort. Second, when someone does catch a lie, the person lying can just point to a different database with slightly different numbers and say, you're both right, depending on the source. It's like when restaurants list calorie counts, but every nutrition website shows different numbers. Eventually, you stop trusting any of them and just order whatever sounds good. It's like when your phone dies and you realize you don't remember anyone's number because you trusted your phone to handle it. Everything worked fine, until suddenly, it didn't. Now you're stuck at Target using the customer service phone trying to call your roommate, but you don't know the number. That's what happens when centralized systems vanish. You don't realize how much you relied on them until they're gone, and you're doing everything the hard way again. So what's the real reason they shut it down? Budget cuts. That's it. No conspiracy. No hidden economic collapse. No secret data that exposed too much. Just a boring budget decision. The CIA decided maintaining the World Factbook wasn't worth the cost. They'd rather spend money on actual intelligence work, satellites, field operations, whatever the CIA does when not maintaining public databases. And honestly, they're probably right it's not their core mission. The CIA's job is national security, not running a free library of global statistics. But here's the actual problem. Nobody else stepped up. No other agency said, this is important, we'll take over. No nonprofit secured funding. No university offered to host it. It just died. Like a houseplant everyone assumed someone else was watering. And that tells you something important about where we are right now. We live in a world where Google remembers what you searched in 2015. Facebook knows your cousin's birthday better than you do. Amazon predicts what you'll buy before you think about buying it. But a reliable, centralized, free source of economic data? Too expensive. Not worth it. Let it disappear and hope nobody notices or complains. The truth is, governments and institutions are deciding transparency isn't a priority anymore. Not because they're hiding something, not because they're evil, but because it costs money, and nobody funds things that don't generate clicks, outrage, or profit. Here's what happens next. Independent researchers will struggle more. Journalists will spend more time hunting for data and less time analyzing it. Students will cite mismatched sources because they pulled from 3 databases without realizing the numbers were collected differently. Misinformation will spread easier because fact-checking becomes more annoying. And most people won't notice because they never knew the World Factbook existed. It's like your favorite restaurant closing, but you only ate there twice a year. You don't realize it's gone until months later when you try to go, and there's a Spirit Halloween in its place. By then it's too late. The recipe's gone. The chef moved on. You're stuck with whatever replaced it. To recap, the CIA World Factbook was a free, centralized database used worldwide to compare economic and demographic data. It shut down a few weeks ago with almost zero news coverage. The official reason is budget cuts and claims that other databases exist, but those alternatives are fragmented, inconsistent, and harder to use. This isn't a conspiracy. It's worse. It's institutions deciding public access to reliable information isn't worth funding. When fact-checking gets harder, misinformation gets easier. You might never have used the World Factbook, but you definitely benefited from people who did. So here's my question for you. If we can't even keep a basic database of economic facts free and online, what else are we quietly losing while nobody pays attention? And more importantly, at what point do we actually start caring about this stuff before it disappears instead of after? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know if this bothers anyone else or if I'm just yelling about a website nobody cared about.